Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. I see everyone's already prepared, warmed up, and open for discussion now, right?
We have a new friend.
So,
we hope you're up to it.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
So, we spoke last year about Bitul of the Olam, which is basically the idea that the world has no existence of itself. And we spoke about a bit of homework to try and give examples where we could see such a thing. Because when we learn these ideas of Hasidus, and we've been spending here 5 weeks already, 5 different chapters speaking about the same idea, explaining it in deeper words, but it's time to bring it down, what's called in the words of Hasidut, L'maaseh b'po'al, which means to bring it down tachlis. Have you heard the expression tachlis?
Yes.
Tachlis means,
Concrete.
what does it really mean in reality, right? It's not enough just
bring it into the reality, into operation.
Exactly. Right? It's not enough just stating the statement of independence. Sometimes you've got to just specify what exactly do you mean, etc. You know. So, this is an open question, and throughout the shiur today, we basically are going to speak about the topics that we've discussed the past weeks. And if you have any ideas about the meaning of Bitul Ha'olam, which means, again, the fact that the world always has this creating force that has to keep it ongoing, and the fact that the world is always turned from now, from the way that he calls it here as ex nihilo, into a real existence, all because of the words of Hashem. What does that change our reality? It's a great theory. But with theories, we can't really buy anything, right? So, the story is about the lecture, right? That promised, you know, if you want to quit smoking, come to this lecture, and after the hour of the lecture, you'll quit smoking. So the person that's a heavy smoker, he commits to it, he signs up, and he shows up, and he hears the lecturer speaking about how bad smoking is, how much damage it can cause a person, and he's so inspired he decides that he's quitting smoking. That's it. And then what happens is he leaves the lecture and he sees outside the lecturer himself sitting and having a smoke.
So
He turns to him. That's hypocrisy. He turns to him. How could you give a whole lecture that's true, that makes 100% sense, right? And you yourself do not follow it. So he said, yes, you're right. The lecture is a good theory. But for myself, this is my own life, my own pleasure. This is the way that I choose to do it. In the words of Hasidut, sometimes it's called Meitzar Hagaron. Meitzar Hagaron is the strain of the voice. The strain of the voice is basically a metaphor that expresses the difference that we have between our minds, our heads, and our hearts. 2 different parts of the human being. There's the mind, there's the intellect, there's the understanding, there's the knowledge, and there's the feeling, the emotion. Trying to connect the 2 is the hardest thing. And this is why it's called a strain, because the strain basically sets a certain limit. And also when we know that this is again, this has to do with all of the idea of bringing down, again, to tachlis, what we learned in theory. So this is basically what we need to deal with. And I'll share with you a miracle that happened in Bet HaMikdash. So today it's very hard to find this theory. And this is why we're saying, well, where can we bring it down and find something practical? But in the times of the temple, there was an ongoing miracle that happened every single moment there, which basically reflected the idea that Hashem is in full control of what's happening.
The candles.
Sorry?
The candelabra.
What was the miracle over there?
Every day it lasted.
It lasted the amount of oil that it had. The miracle there was the Hanukkah, or maybe the fact that it spread light around all of Yerushalayim. But there wasn't a specific miracle about the menorah. The miracle there were a few miracles, but the biggest miracle was the miracle of the Golden Ark. You took a measurement of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, which is called the Holy of Holies, right? That is the holiest part of the Holy Temple. You took a measurement of that part, and you came out with a certain whatever inch or meters that it had. And in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, there was only one vessel. What vessel was that? Just one vessel was there. The menorah was outside, was in the Kodesh, what's called the Kodesh. Two parts to the temple. There was the Kodesh, which is the first sector, which is basically this. You would enter from here until here. This is the Kodesh. You had here the menorah. You had here the Mizbeach, the altar. And you had Shulchan HaPanim, where they had the special breads, right?
Yeah.
And then you had Kodesh HaKadoshim, which was this part. In there was the Golden Ark. That was the only vessel that was... And you took a measurement of the Golden Ark, and it turned out to be bigger than the place called Kodesh HaKadoshim. How could that be? That's a miracle that combines the two names of Hashem that we just spoke about in our shiurim. And when we speak about miracles, it's always nice to remember the interesting and nature-breaking miracles such as the splitting of the Red Sea, even the miracle of Hanukkah, right? Finding that that small amount of oil that lasted us for 8 days. But this is a different kind of a miracle. This miracle seems like to be a bit of a boring miracle. There's nothing fascinating about it more than that. If you would take a look at that part, the Kodesh HaKadoshim, right? You would take a look at it, everything would seem natural. You had to go in with a meter, and you had to measure Kodesh HaKadoshim, and you had to measure the ark, and you would tell us if something doesn't make sense. The ark is 21 meters, and the Kodesh HaKadoshim is just 20 meters, and yet the ark fits in perfectly. How could that be? That is the strongest miracle possible in this world. There's not a greater miracle than that. Why? Isn't the miracle of splitting the Red Sea a greater miracle? Isn't the miracle of the 10 plagues a greater miracle? Isn't the miracle of Hashem destroying the army of Sancheriv? Sancheriv came to destroy the first temple, and he came with an enormous army of 180,000 soldiers, and they surrounded Yerushalayim. And on one night, they died. That's a great miracle. What is such a miracle about this? The ark, that it fits in.
All the other miracles were God made through nature. This wasn't through nature, this miracle.
It's interesting what you're saying, because Sancheriv also, the story of Sancheriv, for example, is above nature. It's not, nothing natural happened, you know, it's not the... Today, today it is possible, but then it was impossible to wipe out an army in one night of 180,000 people. And also there are many other miracles that seem much greater. But there's something here about this miracle that combines the two names of Hashem that we spoke about. And that's what's great about it. We spoke about the two names of Hashem. Who remembers the two names of Hashem?
Elohim.
Elohim is one name, which means Elohim is usually God, a power. Elohim is referred to as a power, right? Nature, power of nature, the the living force of nature, the energy of nature, the life of nature, which is Hashem, in the name of Elohim. And then there's another name of Hashem.
Havaya.
Havaya, that's the second name of Hashem. What does Havaya express? An unlimited amount of energy coming down to the world. And that's why it doesn't come down directly. The idea of Havaya, by the way, is Yud Kei Vav Kei means, the idea is Haya, Hoveh, V'yeh Ke'echad. Yaakov Meir, can you explain that in English? Haya, Hoveh, V'yeh Ke'echad. What does that mean?
That God was before, is now, and will be in the future.
Ke'echad.
It's something that goes beyond time. It's a way to express the uniqueness of God.
Right. In the way Havaya, the source of Havaya means Haya, Hoveh, V'yeh. Haya is in the past. If you go to Ulpan, right, what they teach you about present, past, and future. Haya is the past. Haya, the avar. Hoveh is now, current, present. Yihiyeh, when there's a yud, that is in the future. Yihiyeh, will be. But when it comes to talk about Hashem, so all of these three different times, spaces, are all united as one.
God is beyond time and space.
He's timeless.
Beyond space.
Beyond space and beyond time. That is the idea of Havaya, the name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. So these are two different names, two different natures, two different qualities of interaction with the world and with us, the creatures. Now, here is a typical miracle. A typical miracle is, for example, the miracle of splitting the Red Sea. There's usually the law of nature that the water flows downwards. But here Hashem says, you know what, I'm going to override that law of nature. I'm going to use what name? I'm not going to use the name Elohim. I can't use that name because that name represents nature. What name can I use? What name will I use in order to override nature and to make sure that the sea splits?
Yud Kei.
Yud Kei Vav Kei, Havaya, that name. Because again, that name represents unlimited light which can change the nature. That is one type of miracle. But there's nothing special and unique about that, because we know that Hashem has the power to change nature. So it's great to experience it, and it's of course amazing to see it, but we know that Hashem has that ability. There is something about combining the two together, Elohim, nature, and Havaya, above nature, putting them together and making them work. That is a true challenge. It's like the great philosophical question, can Hashem create a stone, a rock, that he cannot pick up? Have you heard of that question ever?
But there's no such thing.
Theoretically, can Hashem create such a thing?
If he wants to.
If he wants to, he can. But then he won't be able to pick it up.
But if he wants not to, or to, then he will. He can create reality whatever he wants. If he wants to pick it up, or if he says to himself, I don't want to pick it up, can't pick it up. He creates the reality he wants. Because he's in his power, and there's no limitations to him.
I think it's a non-question, though. The people who pose that question want to say, well, if Hashem is all power, they want to deny the power of Hashem. There's no relationship whatsoever to anything spiritual or how we should connect.
So if we are able to give a correct answer to them, so we can twist it, right? We can twist the question. You're right. Sometimes it depends. Sometimes people use it for denial or to question, you know, just they're not looking for an answer. But if we have a good answer and we can understand better the ways of Hashem, so we can use it. when Hashem basically did this miracle in Kodesh HaKodashim, the Holy of Holies, right? What he did was basically kept the name Elohim. He did not change nature. There was space. If you use the meter, there was space. There was a measurement. It was 20 meters, whatever it was, 20 meters. You could measure the 20 meters. Also of the ark, also of the Kodesh HaKodashim itself, which means that nature did rule. The name of Elohim still existed. But nevertheless, you still saw that there was a miracle that involved the name of Havaya, because if you did the calculation and you saw that together something makes no sense here, the fact that the ark is bigger than the place itself and yet it still fits inside, that's a proof that this is also above nature, but not in a way where there's no space, because if it was up just to Shem Havaya, so there wouldn't be a space at all. Being above nature means that nature does not exist. We don't know what that is because we are natural people and we all are in a limited time and space. And that's why we don't truly understand the idea of above nature. We don't know what is above nature. There's no such a thing in our reality. Whatever far you would go, right? You can go to space where it's all part of nature, where space exists, time exists. Right? If you are on Mars still, there's time. It exists every second, right? So once again, the point is to explain the idea of the connection between Shem Havaya and Shem Elohim. How do they both go together? And the best example is from Kodesh HaKodashim, from the Holy of Holies.
Who got to see that miracle?
The high priest, once a year.
To me, that makes me wonder, is that such a miracle that he gets, if the world, there's a theory, not a theory, it's a fact in quantum physics that there were certain things they did that they tested that when it was observed by humans, it would happen. But if humans didn't observe it, it didn't happen.
Quantum physics.
Yeah.
Well, that's
And they even brought up, says, if that's true, if there's not a human being to hear it, and a limb falls from a tree, did it really make a sound? There was no one to hear it. So to me, a miracle that, like you saw the smoke go straight up when the wind's blowing. Everybody's seeing that. That miracle seems greater to me than something that's hidden that only one person gets to see.
but then
Right.
There was no flies.
that was done by the specific plane.
Or the showbread, it was always fresh.
Fresh.
Or there were no flies. Everybody saw this. This
Right.
to me seemed like a greater miracle to me than something that's hidden in one person.
So there are two parts. It says that when we used to travel to the temple 3 times a year. And it says that in the same way that we came to show up, to be there, we also came for a show. That the place showed us certain things. And there were 10 miracles in the temple. One of that is the smoke that didn't move, even with the winds of Yerushalayim, and we know Yerushalayim has many winds, right? So, still there's something so special about these sights that people were able to see. Why? To strengthen their belief in God. People used to work very hard in the fields, and they were not connected. It wasn't like today, where there's a shul all over, everywhere there's a base MIDRASH, and all of these things. So it was a certain challenge sometimes for people. And the point of the temple was to strengthen our belief. And there you're 100% right. When it comes to feelings, to the way a person feels about his connection to Hashem and his belief, so it's much more fascinating to witness And if it was up to me, I would choose to witness the miracle of the splitting of the Red Sea. That's even greater than seeing just the pillar of wind,
That was a
smoke,
one-time
right?
event. This year was an ongoing.
For sure, for sure.
Century.
100%, you're right. But again, we're speaking about the feeling that a person has. So you're right. You have to witness it in order for it to inspire you, because that's the whole point. Being inspired by what you see. Sometimes there is reality, which isn't about our feelings. It's not about what we are inspired or not. It's about knowing that it is what it is. This is how Hashem creates the world. And the laws of physics are exist whether we witness it or not, right? An apple falls from a tree, even if we're not going to look at it, the laws of gravity still apply, right? I don't think there anyone says that maybe the apple still floats in the air. And in that same way, speaking about what happened there in that holy temple, where the name of Havaya was revealed, and that's why even though there was this limited amount of space, still the ark fitted in perfectly. And that is the idea of this miracle.
So is the miracle the ark or the Kodesh Kodeshim? Because the same miracle must have occurred before the Kodesh Kodeshim and today. So the miracle emanates from the ark, not from the building.
It's a combination. It's a combination. It's also the ark and it's also Kodesh HaKodeshim. Kodesh HaKodeshim, again, what was the miracle? What was the miracle then? The miracle was that if you measured the size of Kodesh HaKodeshim, it was, if I'm not mistaken, 20 amma. 20 amma is approximately 10 meters. And if you would take the meter and you would measure the ark itself, it was a bit more than, it was also 20 amma, 10 meters. And nevertheless, you would see a space between the poles of the ark and the walls. How is that possible? That is this specific type of a miracle. There was no miracle like that ever. And people, that's a boring miracle. Yes, it's a boring miracle, but that's the highest miracle possible because it's a combination of two ways that Hashem interacts with us.
So to phrase that in scientific wording, it would be that there is some kind of initiation of a spatial distortion.
Right.
And so it seems to me that it would have to be the ark.
What is causing it? What causes it?
Where does it emanate? Through in our world. See, it's channeling. So the spatial distortion that is...
It's not above space. It doesn't mean that there was no space over there. If Hashem would just use the name of Havaya, that means that there would be no space. I'll give you another example of where Hashem uses the name of Havaya. We know that there's the famous miracle of Shemesh begivon dom v'yareach be'emek ayalon. What happened was there was a battle between Am Yisrael and Sisra, right? And Am Yisrael were beating them. And they were on the chase. Was it Sisra? Who was it? And it was about to become dark, and you can't fight when it's dark in those days, right? They had no infrared to see the enemy. They needed light. So was it Yeshua that stopped the sun, right? He stopped the sun. What does that mean? What is the idea of stopping the sun? Stopping the sun means that you use the name of Havaya, which overrides nature and says that nature that causes the sun to rest will not appear and it will still be the day. That means that time did not really exist. Time was erased for that amount of, for that period. Time was delayed a bit, let's call it that way, it was delayed. And that is not going according to nature. So that's a different type of a miracle. That's a miracle that's above nature. We are looking for a miracle that's within nature, but also combines above nature. So sometimes it's a bit difficult to explain.
I have an example.
Yes.
When you dream, time and space have no importance.
Yeah, it's a dream. That's why it's a dream.
Wait, so in that,
Somehow it's a reality. It's a reality created by your mind.
Like imagination, right? Imagination also, time and space do not really exist.
Yeah.
so in that war, did they have the Ark leading the army?
The Ark was also part of the army, yes, definitely.
And that's the Ark with the broken tablets?
Yeah. Once again, there's also something about the place called Har Moriah, right? The story starts already with Avraham taking his son Yitzchak, Isaac, right, and offering as an offering there, and then it goes on to the story of Yaakov sleeping there at that place, and it says that Yaakov says, "I know that this is a special place," and the Zohar says, "Leis deim atar hediot." This isn't a simple place. This is a special place. And it explains in Chassidut that the name of Havaya shines there. So it's also about the place itself. It's not only the Ark. Specifically, that's brought in connection to the temple, to the Bet HaMikdash. So it's a combination of the two.
And that's on top of the rock. That's at the rock.
Yeah, that's Kodesh HaKodashim. Yeah.
And that's
yeah, Even
That's the rock.
That's the rock, right? By the way, the rock that they have today, they say it's not really. They said they're not sure that it's first of all the rock, the original rock, and it's definitely not in the right place where it's supposed to be, where the place of Kodesh HaKodashim is. That's for a different discussion.
There is a rock there.
There's a rock there, yes.
of course. That's the dome of the rock.
Yeah.
You know, Memoriah is a ridge. They built the platform over it, but it extends from the Temple Mount all the way past the Temple Mount up to a hill on the other side, maybe about half a kilometer away, where there's a Muslim graveyard at the top of it, and that's all Mount Moriah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So yeah, there's quite a few very special objects and etc. over there. But once again, we're not sure what is. Sorry?
מה הקשר עם החיים שלנו?
מה, האבן?
לא.
Okay.
כל זה.
No, so now it's up to you to bring up. Where do we see this idea that we spoke about? And let's just go through briefly the chapters, right? We spoke about chapter, the first chapter was about the psukim, right? We brought the proof from the verses in the Torah that it says, for example, La'olam Hashem dvarcha nitzav b'shamayim. Forever your word is present in the skies. Let's see, there's a few other verses as well. Right. And he goes through chapter 2 and 3 into the logical proofs. So once again, so this is a great theory, but we've got to bring it down and try and see where is it connected basically to our daily lives. The bitul of the olam.
No, but
miracles happen all the time, right? But this is, but we've got to see them. Yes, completely.
Yeah, we have this list of 10 miracles, what happened in Jerusalem and around the Temple Mount.
Right.
And like, yeah, they even say that the father can lead the children up to the children, they could walk in all these miracles. Oh, very clear that miracle.
Right.
Like the smoke going up and all kind of things.
For sure.
And so that miracle was for the children reality. Whenever they came up to Jerusalem,
right. And that was the purpose again. That was the purpose. That was their point.
There's miracles every day all around us constantly. It's just our ability to tune in.
Exactly. So this is the idea that we have to try and bring Lamase, which is understanding the fact that the world is basically the names of Hashem giving the world life, and that can change everything. That can change the way we look at our challenges. That can change the way we look at not only the challenges, but our daily life. We are on a mission in whatever we do, connecting to Hashem. Right? So we connect to Hashem, even if it's with the natural things that we have to do, right? It could be where we eat, sleep, etc., right? All of these things, they are part of nature, but nature is part of Hashem.
I just spoke with Sarah, my daughter in Switzerland. I told her there are miracles in nature we see all that, but we don't realize it anymore. I told her now in the South Pole, the penguin in the middle of the dense winter now, it's -70. Now's the time they give eggs and they grow up the young one in the coldest time of the year, and for months and months they don't eat. And the female takes care, and then the man goes to a fish for fishing and eating, and then they switch over. And this whole program, this crazy program, and to put in that little brain, that should come by evolution and Big Bang and all that. It doesn't make sense all what's going on there. And that's what happened all the time. And to see that kind of thing, say, what has Hashem?
Right, Yefemot. Yefemot.
What other miracles are outside nature?
Most of the biblical miracles, most of the miracles that the Torah tells us about are miracles where Hashem says, Am Yisrael, you need food in the desert, 40 years of food, no problem, I'll give you bread from the heavens. That's a miracle that shows that nature doesn't really exist, right? The clouds that protected them throughout the journey, same thing, same miracle.
You know, we speak about some of the miracles outside of nature. The miracle of when Moshe was fighting the battles and the sun stood still. It's one of the miracles that we can still confirm and verify today. During the early parts of the Gemini space mission, NASA team went to the Griffith Observatory in Los Angeles, where they have they had a Zeiss star projector, and this star projector is capable of setting the position of the stars on a linear scale, depending upon the time that they set, and they can wind that scale from wherever the beginning up until today. And when they were measuring the star placements, because they're trying to figure out how they can use the star placement for exact time measurements and location measurements, and what they found is back in the 1960s, is that there was an error in the linear time scale of the planet and star placement of about 2.5 days. And they couldn't understand for a while why they came up with this error, because the star projector was a very exact mechanical instrument. And then one of the scientists on this team remembered his teachings that he received in the Bible when he was a child, and the story of Moshe having his hands held up and how the sun stood still, and the error that they measured at the Griffith Observatory with the star placement comes out to the same error during that time, and there was one other time when time stood still, and that then correlated with the error that they measured on the star projectors.
Does NASA write about it? Do they?
Yeah, there's articles about that.
It'll be interesting to see. Yeah, definitely. That's when science can also show and prove the miracles that we know and believe in. So, okay, so I'm going to need to end a bit early today, and Be'ezrat Hashem, next week we're going to continue with chapter 6, and we'll have sheets for everyone with the text, and we'll do it like we did previously, and Be'ezrat Hashem at 11 o'clock, Rabbi Kowalski will be coming, and he'll give a great shiur about the Tanakh. Thank you very much, Yashar Koach.